I'm going to record a quick demo on how to import animations into Unreal Engine. So here we have maybe the greatest animation I've ever made of this little block guy walking. And we're going to try to get this into Unreal Engine as it is. So the first step to doing this is selecting all of the geometry that you have for your character that you want to import. For me, I put everything into this folder called Cube Guy, so we're just going to select that. The next step is you're going to want to select the root joint for the skeleton. So this is important. If your skeleton has like one single root joint, that is, it's the great grandparent of all your other joints, right? That's the one you want to select. You don't need to select anything else. So first, select all of your mesh. It's important that you do that first. And then select your root joint. Then you can go to File. You can go to Export Selection. Select export it as an FBX. And you want to make sure you uncheck this box here that says animation, right? I'm going to call this anim test and do export selection. So what that's going to do is it's exporting the mesh and the skeleton, but it's not going to export any of the keyframes or any of the animation. We do that second. So in order to do that, you select the root joint, go to File, Export Selection, FBX again, Export. Now you want to turn animation on. And you want to save this as a different file. So this one I'm calling animtestanimated.fbx. Export selection. Now, if we go over to Unreal Engine, we can, right, and here I just have a blank scene. We can go to our content drawer. I'm actually going to make a little folder for our character. So let's make a new folder and call this character. And let's go in here. And we want to import our stuff now. So first we need to import our character and our skeleton. So we do animtest.fbx. Make sure all of this looks good. You mostly don't have to change anything. This is all fine. Make sure that import animations is not checked. You don't want this box to be checked. Then you did import all. And ideally, Unreal Engine should freeze or crash. That would be great if it did that. Okay, so it worked, but also the audio on the recording broke. So this is future Gus Scratch audio. So after you do that, it should correctly import all of your files into your scene. Next, you'll need to import your animation files. What's important for importing your animation file is making sure that it's set up to the right skeletal mesh up here at the top. I'm hovering on this and elaborating a lot, I guess. Then you'll need to make sure that the animation length is set for export a time, if that's how you exported it. It just depends. Once you import it, you should see it. It opens up the import. I'm going to close those for now. And there's nothing in our scene because we haven't actually dropped anything in. So we're going to drop in our character guy, right? So when I drop him in, he's really small. We can just scale him up. That's an appropriate thing to do in this instance. He's also laying down because in Unreal Engine, the up axis is Z, but in Maya, it's the Y axis. So to fix that, I'm just going to rotate him so that he's oriented correctly. There might be a better way to export that, but I don't know what it is. So now we've got our guy, but he's not moving. He's just a static mesh. So we can go over to the side over here under animation, this little animation drop down. We can go to animation mode and we select animation asset, right? And that should give us the option to use the export FBX that we just did for the animation. And you can see here that it is now working correctly. And we have our animation in Unreal Engine. But Gus, I hear you screaming from the top of your lungs. What if my character doesn't have a single root joint? What if it's actually this horrible system of a bunch of joints that are all constrained, but not actually parented under a single root joint? Or what if my rig has a bunch of deformers like wires and lattices, and that stuff won't work in an FBX? It's okay. There's a way. That rhymed. Uh, Essentially what you want to do is you want to select all of the meshes that you want to export, if that's the case, and export that as an Alembic cache instead of an FBX. So what we're going to do for that is I'm going to take my guy here, His name is Apollo. And we're just gonna select all of his stuff, right? All of his mesh. Cool. And we're gonna go to cache. This isn't actually an export, it's called a geocache. You want to go to Alembic cache, export selection to Alembic. Time slider is good for now. None of these checkboxes really matter for what we're doing for now. Export selection, we're gonna make sure it's saved as an Alembic. All of this is the same as what we saw before, and export selection. So now it's gonna go through every single frame very, very slowly. So you have to wait for it to do that first. Okay, it's almost done. Cool. Coolio, as they say. So now our Alembic is exported, and we can go back to our Unreal scene. I'm gonna erase this guy off the face of the earth. Just kidding. No, I'm not. He's okay for now. Let's import our guy. So make sure you're choosing your Alembic file. That's .abc. Stands for Alembic Cache. It's also the first 3 letters of the alphabet. When you import it, make sure all of this geometry looks correct. It's really easy to import a bunch of stuff that you don't want to import with Alembics. You want to change static mesh to geometry cache. That's very important. Make sure all of your settings look right, and then hit import. And then it's got to import every single frame again, which also takes forever, so you have to wait for that to happen too. All right, it's done. So, in our content drawer, we should now have our animation. I'm going to drag and drop him. He is also tiny, and he's also sideways. I haven't found a good way to import Alembics the correct way up, so leave a comment. Leave a comment in the comment section down below if you're smarter than me. Anyway, this should work now, and it should also have all of its deformers, and if you look at this, everything is moving correctly. We're not leaving anything out with this. So if you've got a rig that's really complex or has a lot of deformers or isn't all under a root joint, you definitely want to use an Alembic cache instead of an FBX. That's the moral of the story. However, if your rig is really simple, and if your rig is quote-unquote game ready, then you should use an FBX because FBXs are a lot lighter and they're better for this kind of thing. They're faster and easier to import. They're a little bit more versatile in game engines. But if you're desperate, an Alembic will work just fine. It's just a little bit heavier and a little bit trickier to set up and plug textures into. Okay, that's the end of the tutorial.